Council President, committee members, and participants. We are now live.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. We are reconvening our FY2024 budget hearing, week 4. This afternoon's version, we will be hearing the Office of Sustainability, Philadelphia Energy Authority, and the Free Library. If you all are ready, let's start our testimony. Mr. McDermott, who's the first one up to testify?
First person to testify is Elizabeth Lankenau, Interim Director of the Office of Sustainability.
And then followed by
Emily Shapira, President of the Philadelphia Energy Authority.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. You all, please proceed with your testimony.
Great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Council President Clark and members of City Council. I am Liz Lankenau, and I have served as Interim Director of the Office of Sustainability since March 20th. With me today, I have Don McGraw, Deputy Director of Municipal Energy Services, Nidhi Krishan, Deputy Director of Climate Solutions, Genevieve Lamar-Lemay, Senior Advisor for Environmental Justice, Abby Sullivan, Senior Advisor for Climate Science and Risk Communication, and Corinne Tanktracul, our Program Manager of Place-Based Initiatives. To begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the Office of Sustainability's prior Director, Salim Chapman, who was recognized in 2022 with Resolution 220779. I valued our collaboration while I served as Otis's Director of Infrastructure Program Coordination, and I was honored when he recommended me to lead the Office of Sustainability. We all congratulate Salim and look forward to working with him in the Shapiro administration. Fortunately, amid this recent change in leadership, there is strong continuity with this smart, compassionate, and dedicated sustainability team. And working with them has brought me back to my core values. This interim position presents exciting new challenges to equitably further the city's sustainability goals, whether through improving municipal energy performance, elevating quality of life through just climate-related policy and planning, or building a more just food system. Through the support of Council, the administration, the budget process, and our partners, the Office of Sustainability has made amazing strides. This week, we filled our last staff vacancy. Trial installations for the Philly Streetlight Improvement Program have begun, which puts us on our way to further reduce our carbon emissions while improving public safety. The Adams Solar Project will provide renewable energy to nearly a quarter of municipal buildings by late 2023, with another renewable power purchase agreement underway. We are working to compete for and strategically optimize federal dollars available through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. To start, the Office of Sustainability has applied to the EPA's Environmental Justice Government-to-Government program and is working with the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission to prepare a climate action plan for EPA's climate pollution reduction program. We anticipate being eligible for many more funding opportunities. We launched a place-based resilience planning effort in Eastwick to deliver community-driven solutions to long-stalled flood mitigation in partnership with city, state, and federal partners. The Office of Sustainability submitted an application to FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program to build a comprehensive and integrated flood resilience strategy in Eastwick. The state approved the application for federal review, and we expect an announcement this summer. We will scale our efforts to alleviate energy burden for residents through a city-funded strategic plan that will leverage federal funding to help all residents across access energy benefits and participate in the city's transition to an equitable, clean energy future. In 2023, Mayor Kenney signed Executive Order 2-23, establishing the Philadelphia Environmental Justice Advisory Commission. Funded for 5 years, the commission will collaborate with the Office of Sustainability staff and an interdepartmental environmental justice and climate resilience working group to inform just decision-making and improve equitable access to environmental amenities. The William Penn Foundation is providing a 2-to-1 match to the city for Community Resilience and Environmental Justice Grant Fund, which will distribute $10,000 grants to 15 community organizations annually, with the Environmental Justice Commission operating as the selection committee. There is always more work to be done. For the foreseeable future, the climate crisis will be predictable in its unpredictability, of increasingly hotter and wetter weather events. The office will continue to do all that it can with the resources available to prepare our city for the climate challenges expected to impact our public mandates. We'll update our partners on climate science data, associated vulnerabilities, and seek ways to reduce risk. And we'll ensure that the environmental justice and climate preparedness are threaded throughout policy planning and implementation decisions. Thank you, and I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you. Mr. Barrow.
Thank you so much, Council President. Members of Council, good afternoon. I'm Emily Shapira, President and CEO of the Philadelphia Energy Authority. I am really pleased to provide testimony for our first time on PEA's fiscal year 2024 operating budget. We are a nimble team of 11 up on the 5th floor of City Hall. We work to build a robust and equitable clean energy economy in Philadelphia. In 2016, I think everyone knows, with the leadership of Council President Clark, we launched the Philadelphia Energy Campaign, a pledge to invest $1 billion in energy efficiency and clean energy projects to create 10,000 jobs over 10 years. Through 2022, we have supported $380 million in projects and programs and helped create nearly 3,300 jobs. We expect to nearly double that impact in 2023 and 2024, with $375 million more in projects breaking ground this year. PEA leverages clean, efficient, affordable energy as a tool for impact to advance the four main goals of the Philadelphia Energy Campaign. Those are spurring economic development, creating jobs, alleviating poverty, and improving public health. We do that by holding long-term contracts on behalf of the city, which are common and necessary in energy work, and we facilitate and support project development and execution for municipal and institutional clean energy projects. This includes projects like the Streetlight Improvement Project, the school district's energy savings projects, and Adams Solar, which Liz mentioned will provide about 25% now of municipal electricity needs starting in 2024. We also run programs that address similar issues in housing, commercial and industrial buildings, and small businesses. Those programs include Solarize Philly, which has supported over 1,300 homeowners to add solar onto their roofs, our water and sewer service line protection program, which serves 90,000 households across the city and has saved consumers over $45 million in repairs, CPACE, or Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing, which has facilitated over $160 million in energy projects in commercial and industrial buildings across the city in Kensington, Germantown, the Navy Yard, West Philly, and Center City. And then lastly, Built to Last, our low-income home preservation initiative, which in the past year restored 50 homes to safe, healthy, and affordable condition, many with electric heat pumps, which provide both heating and cooling, and solar for long-term affordability and resilience. Built to Last has a current pipeline actually of 317 interested qualified homeowners at the moment, so we have a little bit of a wait list. PEA has received an average of $796,000 annually from the city over the last 6 fiscal years, which has catalyzed an average of $63.3 million per year of clean energy investment over the course of the energy campaign. That is an 80x return on every dollar the city has invested in PEA. Last summer, the federal government passed the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, and in doing so has given Philadelphia the opportunity to bring literally billions of dollars to clean energy projects and initiatives in our city, from installing solar, batteries, and electric vehicle chargers to retrofitting commercial buildings and converting homes to electric heating and cooling. This is a historic moment in federal funding with the IRA and bipartisan infrastructure law, and PEA's goal is to bring $5 billion to Philadelphia in the form of formula and competitive grants, rebates, and tax credits, which are now available not only to for-profit companies and individuals, but also to government institutions and nonprofits. PEA has to build critical capacity to be able to manage the increased scale. So we are asking this year for an increase to the city's investment in our work, from FY23's city allocation of $1 million to an FY24 allocation of $3 million. At that level, city funding would account for 31% of PEA's annual budget, an investment in line with the percentage of our budget the city has funded in previous years. And we've raised over $6 million in other funds for FY24. So we make sure to really leverage, every dollar that we receive from the city. I'll leave it there. And if there are additional questions or details anyone would like to get into on any specific programs, I'm happy to share that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both for your testimony. I'd like to start with the Energy Authority. I can recall, it seemed like it was yesterday, inauguration day, not this past time, but the time before, I guess, 7 years ago. We stood on the stage and we put out this robust plan and strategy, said we want to create 10,000 jobs. And they said that guy Clark needs to be committed. Something's wrong with him, right? Right. But we haven't reached 10,000, but I see you're on a path to achieving a significant amount of that goal. So for that, I want to thank you and your team so much for the work you've done and your contribution to the city and moving the city in a direction for the future. And I talked to you about the jobs, and we actually just did I think of Patty Jackson. I do this thing every week. We call in the Patty, and we talked about this opportunity with some of the green job opportunities that are going to be presented. And I want to thank you for your commitment. What could we do other than the requested dollars that you just asked for to move you closer to that 1 billion and that 10,000 job commitment that we made many years ago?
Thank you so much for that question. I'm really grateful to be able to do this work the way we've been able to do it, which has been to be sort of laser focused on moving projects and programs forward. So we're able to take really the strategic guidance of the Office of Sustainability and sort of the administration's sort of vision of the future for the city of Philadelphia and focus on taking concrete steps forward each year by helping to develop those projects and programs. So we've been incredibly grateful for the support of council and your support specifically, Council President. I think the financially, obviously, capacity building is the magic for us this year. We need to make sure that we have the capabilities to be able to manage the complexity of federal grants that we're receiving and the complexity of the IRA process itself, where we'll need to actually apply for grants. We'll need to build coalitions around grants. The Inflation Reduction Act is different from typical federal funding bills. So for example, the bipartisan infrastructure law is really a traditional funding bill where all sorts of different federal departments and administrations are putting out specific calls for funding, and you can apply directly to those. With IRA, all of them sort of cross silos and require a lot of collaboration, not only across different types of departments in a city government, for example, but also with nonprofits and community-based organizations, with research entities, with the private sector. And so it really requires some centralized coordination in a way that other federal funding bills have not. And so both the Office of Sustainability and PEA will need the resources to be able to do that level of coordination in order to draw down that $5 billion to Philly. And so, I think financially, that's incredibly important. We also have really valued the support of council members in their districts and citywide of really helping us to communicate our work to key stakeholders to help, drive impact with people like the school district, with PHA, and really helping us to move those projects forward. So we're grateful for any support council can provide.
Awesome, thank you. Real quick, if you could talk to me about for the Office of Sustainability. You talk about the buildings. I guess we have this resiliency initiative, climate resiliency of government buildings. We talked about funding is similar to the FY23 funding. What buildings were we in a position to implement a program on climate resiliency? The bottom line is, what's our strategy for retrofit or our own inventory in the city of Philadelphia? I know we're promoting, and I don't know Ms. Lankenau or Ms. Shapiro would answer that question. It all should start at home. And I know we had a proposal for the school district many years ago, and now they understand the wisdom in our requests. But can you talk about our own buildings? What we're doing?
Sure. For us as a city, leading by example is incredibly important. We can't ask of others what we don't ask of ourselves. And I think I'm going to pull on Don McGraw, who runs our municipal energy program, to give a little more detail about that. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So we work with various different departments. Department of Public Property are great partners, and we've been really kind of assessing what we can do. A lot of our resiliency work with municipal buildings ends up being how can we reduce the energy capacity so that way backup generators in crucial buildings have the ability to last for longer if we see power outages or transformer issues in the area. That's been a key issue for us. We've noticed it in a lot of our health centers. So we're working right now with our health centers to really kind of look and analyze how the building's performing over time, and then we'll really know what systems need upgrades and repairs. So that's through our building monitoring program that we're actively working on now. And we are working on an RFP for Guaranteed Energy Savings Act project to go after our 4 large downtown buildings, and then also our health centers as well, them being crucial facilities within neighborhoods.
And I can just jump in to add to Dom's note that, Dom's team creates a list of all of the potential projects across all city buildings. And then we sort of, go through them methodically to scope them and to put together projects that we think can pay for themselves. All of our energy efficiency projects have been, all of our GISA projects have been budget neutral. And so, we have to sort of put the right combination together. So this round 2 of the quadplex plus the health centers is coming up next. And part of the IRA process will be to continue scoping those projects so that as grant opportunities come up, incentive opportunities come up, we can jump on those quickly and get those subsidies to make them work.
One last question. I want to ask you about something that we talked about before. We were kind of looking at every imaginable opportunity, and there was this discussion about utilizing our river to generate power, hydroelectricity device of some sort. And I know people are all over it. But did that ever make any sense? And did it go beyond just a conversation?
Yeah, in what year was that? In 2019, we did an RFI, 2018, for power utilizing our waterways. At the time, the only project that made financial sense was at Flat Rock Dam in Manayunk. There is a dam safety project happening. And when that project is complete, there will be sort of the right size hole, which is the sluiceway. And then through the sluiceway, you could put a little, about a 1 megawatt hydro generator right there. And that is a project we are still hoping to do. They started dam construction on the safety project this year. So fingers crossed that that'll get done soon, and we can take a closer look at that. We have a feasibility study from that as well. So we're close to being able to go forward. The other types of projects like, run of river type, or tidal, energy, those kinds of things. At the time, we're not ready for prime time, but there's been a lot of changes in that technology. So it's something that we continue to look at, because I think we've really missed a lot of opportunities to mine the existing resources that we have in Philadelphia. One of those big opportunities is with the water department. They have a cogeneration plant at one of the treatment plants, and there's a ton of potential to make that even more efficient, produce more renewable thermal credits or renewable natural gas, or more electricity. There's a lot of options there. And across the water department footprint, there continue to be more ways to mine the resources that we already have in the city. So those are definitely things we're continuing to look at.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure that Majority Leader Jones will get you over the hurdle, so to speak, on that waterway, particular Maniout project. Figure out a way to get that 1 megawatt device pumping out energy so we can utilize our assets to benefit the citizen. Thank you all. Chair recognizes the aforementioned Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I remember the inauguration of the Energy Authority. I remember you and making sure that that was a priority. I remember the opening of the Office of Sustainability. And when I sit back and listen to some of the progress that has been made, I am further the belief of what we do grinds slow, but it grinds fine, that eventually things actually catch on and actually make progress. So you have restored my faith in new initiatives and that they can actually grow and mature and make a difference. My question, and I'm excited about the Maniout cogeneration opportunity there, and want to do whatever I can do to get that dam funded and moved into the right direction. But I'm intrigued about the water department. When we look at the water department, and this was actually brought up by now Mayor Jim Kenney, that there was an opportunity to place solar panels on the roofs of our treatment plants because they're flat, exposed to the sunlight, and the fact that electricity is the number one expense involved in processing our water. Was there any movement on that concept or idea?
Emily, do you want to take that? I know there is a solar array, but I think you're more familiar with the status. Yeah.
Yes, totally. I'm happy to take that. So thank you so much for that question, Councilman. We love to talk about rooftop solar. So in Philadelphia, rooftop solar has had a hard time on the commercial side because of the way we buy electricity. So as a city, through Liz's office, Dom McGraw's team is responsible for purchasing electricity, and they have a very sophisticated operation that buys extremely well. So for commercial buildings or government buildings like those at the water department, we're paying a pretty low rate for that electricity. And so solar really has to compete, right? And in order to make it more affordable. And it's only in very recent years that solar has become affordable enough to be sort of at parity with those electricity prices. So a few years ago, we looked at more rooftop solar for government buildings, couldn't make it pencil, but we're ready to do it again. So that's something that Dom's team and our team has been working on to put together an RFP for something like a master services agreement where we could contract, to look at all city rooftops that are in good enough condition to include solar on them and go forward as we have projects that can pencil.
Well, I'm looking forward to that because, electricity is affordable today does not mean it'll be affordable tomorrow. And we should plan on while we can, so that if the tragic happens, that we're ready for it and moving forward. So thank you for that update. So when maybe 10 years ago, I remember everybody had a energy conservation package they wanted to sell the city of Philadelphia. We will come in and retrofit your building and we will get our money back based on the cost savings that we were able. So fast forward to now, have any of those concepts proven fruitful? And if so, how? And if so, how much?
Liz, I can start there and maybe I'll pass it back to you guys also.
Okay.
I remember all of those meetings. There was like a rush maybe 6 years ago, where all of these infrastructure finance companies were coming in and saying, we'll basically pay for all of the repairs and essentially we'll lease back your building to you. And that's how you'll pay for those repairs, and it'll pay back from energy savings. And at the time, the city did not think that was a good idea. The idea of sort of public buildings being leased in this strange way, made everybody uncomfortable. So instead, what we did was to follow sort of the strict protocol of the State Guaranteed Energy Savings Act. Really similar idea, but instead we finance it just through a regular municipal or green bond. And so that's what we did with the first Quadplex project, with the art museum project that we finished a couple of years ago. That's what we're doing with the streetlight improvement project as well. And so we designed the project so that the energy savings and the maintenance savings pay for the upfront cost of doing the work, and we issue a bond so that the energy savings will more than pay for the debt service. In the case of street lighting, for example, that project has about a 9-year payback. So we'll be getting positive cash flow from day one on that project, and we'll have that completely paid off pretty quickly. So it works is the answer. I think the complex financing structure that a lot of those guys were pitching wasn't one that was very appealing to either the city or the school district. But I think all of that continues to evolve, and there are other options besides doing municipal bonds, and especially in a high interest rate environment, some of those options might get more appealing as we keep going.
And since I'm going retro, at one point in time, everybody wanted that. What was that sexy energy rating that everybody wanted? It was a, LEED, I think it might have been. And looking back on that, everybody wanted to build to that level of energy efficiency. To what degree have we retro engineered some of our buildings to pass a LEED standard?
Sure, I can take that one. So we do have a LEED ordinance, and the Office of Sustainability is working with the departments to really message how the change from going from LEED silver to LEED gold and what that means. And so everyone here understands that. Our staff is hosting trainings to get departments up to speed. And we're working with Rebuild and the OEO and U.S. Green Building Council to host Green Building 101s to really introduce LEED training for contractors. And we're focusing a lot on minority contractors to get them into the field. So that is something that has been a recent change and something we are working on in our office.
So I guess a lot of the LEED issues stopped being so unique because of the building materials. Everybody was trying to build to that standard by way of supplying materials that would help that process. My final question is, there was a time when PECO offered discounts for reduction of uses during peak hours. Is that still a thing, and can we kind of work with them to kind of reduce our electric bill based on reductions during their peak usage hours?
Sure, I'd love for Dom McGraw in our office to answer for municipal buildings.
Yeah, so there's a few things at play. So PECO offers rebates for whenever we install new lighting fixtures or other things, so we get rebates for those. We also have there's a peak load contribution charge that comes on our PECO bill. So we work with all departments and we're alerted by one of our contractors when we should be reducing in order to lower that cost, and that'll reflect in the following years. So so the following summer, if we reduce this summer, we'll see the reflection next summer. And then lastly, we have our demand response program, which is which hosted by our grid operator, PJM. So instead of them turning on dirty peaker plants in case of emergency, they'll instead pay us to just reduce. And so we're heavily involved in that program, and we work with our partners. The water department's been great partners in there, DPP and others. So it's been super helpful moving that forward.
So, and just between us, and no one's listening, is there somebody that adjusts our thermostat in the MSB and City Hall and kind of, tortures us a little bit to save energy. Is that true?
We're not trying to torture anyone. No, we're trying our best to make sure all the systems are functioning appropriately. But we have a building monitoring program that kind of analyzes all that to make sure that we can that all the temperatures reflecting the way it's supposed to, and the systems are working appropriately.
All right. I'm gonna take that as a yes. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, and thank you for that question. I get it. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Okay, there we are. Thank you so much, Council President, and thank you to the Office of Sustainability. Thank you to PEA for all of your great work, for your collaboration. I think having you all together should be the standard for budget hearings moving forward. But I truly appreciate the work that you all have done. And this is really, CP was talking about that 7 or 8 years ago when everyone stood on the stage and, council talked about creating 10,000 jobs. And you all have certainly been a significant portion of the jobs that have been created thus far. And I'm encouraged because they're primarily green jobs. And we know that we have to figure out what the transition continues to look like. So I'm just really, really encouraged by the work that you all have done. But it's also full circle for me because more than 8 years ago, I worked on the legislation to make the Office of Sustainability a permanent part of city government when I was a legislative aide for Councilmember Blondell Reynolds Brown, who was truly one of our visionaries around the environment, sustainability, and climate change. So I have to start there by giving thanks for all of your work, but just how full circle this moment truly is and how much I appreciate you all. I want to start with the Office of Sustainability because I have talked about this issue even on the first day of budget hearings relative to staffing. We expect and anticipate a large output of work product from you all, but we recognize that you can only do that with human capital. And we also recognize that if we're looking at our peer cities across the country, that our staffing levels don't always match up with the same level of staffing output that they have. And so I wanted to start with OOS and ask you how many of your staff are grant funded versus temporarily funded, meaning how many are under Class 100 from the city, how many are, through grants or other special projects?
Sure, thank you for that question. So we have 20 through the general fund, and then we have an additional 4. So we have 2 employees through a settlement agreement that sort of pass through funding through PEA in our energy office. We have 1 additional staffer through a William Penn Foundation place-based grant. And then we have 1, so the quick answer is we have 4 more in addition to the 20. And then the last one is a Merck-funded employee with our Food Policy Advisory Council group. So. Okay,
and if you could just give us the breakdown so that way we can look at the percentages, is it 50%, or 30% of your staff is grant funded, whatever it is, but we want to look at the breakdown so we understand it there. Councilmember Jones talked about sort of the preparation, particularly for our city buildings around the updated LEED ordinance. And so, we've upgraded the LEED ordinance so that we can upgrade our city facilities and infrastructure as well. But how are you all working to sort of directly train and prepare the staff sort of in every city department? Because what I've found is over the years, any question that comes up around the environment, sustainability, climate change, climate period, all roads and all fingers are pointed back to the Office of Sustainability. But in order to effectively do this work, that everyone has to have a stake in caring about this issue across departments. So how are you all interfacing with other departments and training their team members around the upcoming projects for the upgrades that will happen as a result of the updated LEED ordinance?
Sure. We don't have a dedicated person to do the training as a thing by itself right now, but I would like to have Don McGraw pop back on to talk a little bit about how his office has worked with other departments.
Absolutely, yeah. So we are So we have taken over management of the lead portal, the USGBC, and so we manage all the staff throughout the city that are signed up through that. So we have about over 70 signed up through this portal. We have over 25 staff throughout city government that are lead credentialed, and we're hoping
Can I
to.
ask you? I
Yeah.
apologize for the interruption, but you said you have 25 team members who have lead credentials. But can you break that down by department? Because 70 people, it sounds really good, which is great. It's many more than we had years ago. But we have a total sort of complement of thousands of employees. So just for, reference.
Yeah, I can get that back to you. But that is beyond OOS. That's full city, and hopefully we'll get more as we go. And so we are conducting trainings with our partners at Green Building United, and we've been doing them semi-regularly. Hope to do more and trying to get more involved. But we've been seeing a lot of departments, DPP specifically, Rebuild as well, very interested in these trainings and being involved.
Okay, that'll be great. If you could just keep us updated and sort of tell us where the lead professionals are. I imagine there's probably a lot in water and some of the other departments and more concentrated. But if you could just tell us where they are and what they do and sort of their role in this process, that'll be helpful. We know that typically you all are always looking for other opportunities. I heard Emily talk about how every dollar that's invested is like an 80, full give back for the city of Philadelphia. But what additional resources have you all assigned to compete for any of the IRA funding opportunities? And as a result of that, is there any work that's suffering because of it, or is it something that we need to sort of look at through this process? I really want to understand that. And I've asked most of the city departments about the federal funding, even PPR with this new announcement around the $1 billion for trees and increased tree canopy and trying to eliminate urban heat islands. But you all know that there's a ton of opportunities that will come on board. So how are you all working to go after those opportunities? And again, going back to that original question around staffing, what is sort of necessary to really ensure that we can meet this moment and utilize this moment to help us meet the goals that this council has laid out, 7 or 8 years ago?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Right now, we're a very scrappy team and do what we can with the resources we have. And do I continue? Yep. Okay. So right now, for instance, with the Environmental Justice to Justice grant, I think we have about 4 staffers working on that together. I've worked very, very hard. One of the things that I want to look into in the sort of next budget cycle is doing a strategic plan for our group so that we really understand all of those needs. In addition to that, we have money set aside being processed through the Energy Authority, both for the Energy Authority to look at a strategy around the infrastructure or the Inflation Reduction Act. And we too are going to put out for an RFP to get some technical advice on the energy burden alleviation work and all of the money that we can get through the IRA. So, with that, for the city side and that RFP, we are looking at grant management support, but we expect that there's just going to be a lot of money. It's a $370 billion project, $5 billion coming here. So, we're going to do what we can, but we're in a strategy mode right now.
Okay, that'll be great. Well, you walk right into my next question. I'll circle back on the next round because I did hear the bell, but I do want to get in depth more around the strategy and the coordination across city department because, I fear that because sometimes we work in silos, we all don't work together to ensure that we're maximizing these opportunities. So I'll circle back on the second round. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Just had a couple questions. First for the Energy Authority and then for the Office of Sustainability. For the Energy Authority, I know some time ago there was a plan put forward to update LED lights in certain parts of the city of Philadelphia. And I just want to get an update on that particular project, particularly with all the crime and violence that's going on. I think highlighted areas will contribute toward addressing some of our public safety needs. And then next, for the Office of Sustainability, we recently had a meeting with EPA, your office, and other city agencies around coming up with a strategy and a plan for the Eastwick part of my district and a flood mitigation plan. Just want to get an idea of what your office is going to be doing in for that particular project, but also just in general regarding flood mitigation as we move forward.
So, Emily, do you want to take the first one?
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much, Councilman, for that question. I love talking about the street lighting project. So that's been moving forward rapidly. So, one of the great things about energy projects is that we have the Guaranteed Energy Savings Act, which allows us to do a different kind of procurement than you normally do. So you got to pick your partner, and then they go and complete an investment grade audit. So we actually have audited every single light fixture that is outside in Philadelphia over the last few months. That was 133,000 fixtures. So a human being has visited each one of them. We have details on what's going on at every single one, and a really cool set of data where we've been able to overlay nighttime crime, vision zero issues, pedestrian and vehicle crashes, as well as other demographic information, so we can really prioritize which parts of the city go first in the construction schedule. We are very close to being done all the way with the investment grade audit. We're getting ready to issue a bond for that project. So once we receive the final proposal from Amoresco, our partner on this, we will be able to go forward with ordering equipment and getting ready to start construction. So our expectation is that construction will begin this summer, probably late June, early July, and it has a 24-month construction schedule. We'll be in 8 to 10 different neighborhoods at a time, so we'll have crews working in multiple places. Our website will have the 2-week look ahead on construction, so everybody will know when it's coming to their community. We're replacing every single roadway light, every single alleyway light in the city. And then we're hoping to also be able to do pedestrian scale lighting, like on commercial corridors as well, but it'll depend on the final pricing, whether we have enough money to do it budget neutrally.
And how will we prioritize like high crime areas?
Yeah, that formula of the overlay of, how does this intersect with high crime, high vision zero impacts, and then, sort of equity index as well. So that's how we'll prioritize. And if there are particular areas in any district where people know there are problems specifically that you want us to focus on, let us know. We're also overlaying the DA's 57 blocks data as well, just to make sure that we're really focusing on those areas where it might particularly help nighttime crime.
And in terms of the Built to Last Solarized Philly program, how are we going about advertising and educating individuals that this is the best way to have an energy efficient home? I had a good friend, actually Senator Williams. We watched him get his house at one time solarized, so to speak, right? And then we saw the impact on, I'm just telling this guy's business, but it's for a good cause. We watched the impact on the energy bill basically go down, right? And he would use it as a teaching moment, talking about the importance of solarizing your house and so forth and making it more energy efficient. How are we advertising to get more people involved in that?
I love that. So our Built to Last program is low-income home restoration. So it's for folks under 60% of area median income. So, that is a program that coordinates all of the existing home repair programs. And then we layer onto it some health measures. So like mold remediation, anything where there's, lead or asbestos or that kind of stuff in the home. And then additionally, we do pest remediation, electrification where it's appropriate, to do heat pumps for heating and cooling. And then we add solar for exactly as you're saying, that long-term affordability. Solar, keeps you from having to have an electric bill, basically. And now that provides both your heating and your cooling. So that program's been going great. We have done 50 homes so far. We have 317 homes in the pipeline at the moment. We haven't advertised that a whole lot because we don't have enough funding to meet the need. So we're continuing to fundraise there, and the state whole home repair program has really given us a big boost this year. So that this year's funding gives us enough to do about 270 additional homes. And then we have additional funding from the federal government to get us up to about 400. So we're hoping to continue to advocate at the state level for more funding for that program. And then Solarize Philly is always open, solarizephilly.org. This is Earth Week, so this is a good time to be thinking about it. We do all sorts of programming, outreach to community organizations. We do a little bit of online advertising, but not a lot since we don't have the budget to do a ton. But our installers are the ones that are really out there pushing. So in the last year, we did about 500 homes through our lease program, which is a fantastic program for low-income folks or people with less than great credit, because there's no upfront cost. It's literally a 20-year lease, and it's cheaper than PECO. So a great deal.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And Elizabeth, Office of Sustainability.
Yes, Eastwick. It was great. I did a field view with Corinne on our team last week, and Justina, her strategist in the group, and just such great work that they're doing. And I was very grateful to see a lot of this on the ground. And also really want to thank you for convening the meeting with the federal and state partners a couple of weeks ago. Because, the analysis paralysis, and it's a lot of important planning work that's going on, but now it's really time to see what we can do to start doing short-term interventions to get to those bigger long-term solutions. So Corinne has been working to get the city, state, federal interagency meetings on the books and ready to go. There have been community days that they're doing to really not only just focusing on the flooding, but really all of the city services that are needed in this community, from streetlight repair, trees that are falling down, all kinds of things, making sure that the community is connected to all of our city resources in a very fine touch kind of way, because we do know that sometimes our city services can be a little hard to navigate. So that, I think, has been a real value added to a lot of this process. So there's even more. Again, we're waiting for the announcement this summer on WIC funding, which is something that will really help move real solutions. So there's a lot going on in Eastwick. Very exciting.
I just want to thank you and your team, and as well as the Energy Agency as well, for your hard work regarding making the city of Philadelphia a more sustainable city. So thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for round two.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council President. And I also want to thank Councilmember Johnson and his team for all the work that they've done in his district around the Eastwick issue. We've had the great fortune and opportunity to work with the partners in EPA around ensuring that there is really robust community participation and opportunity for feedback, particularly from the federal government perspective. And so I'm just appreciative of all the work Councilmember Johnson continues to do on the ground and really incorporating community, and happy that we're able to work with our partners at LGAC at the EPA to ensure that's happening in a way that is culturally competent. I wanted to just quickly circle back to the last question I had around sort of strategy and coordination for the IRA funding and how you all are sort of interfacing with other departments.
Sure. One of the great things I learned when I was at Otis was the RACI model. And RACI is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And I think with a lot of these grant opportunities for our office, it's going to be, what departments do we support, that we're helping them with language to align the operating department's goals with the sustainability goals. Where is it that we're truly the responsible party to execute? So to me, a lot of the strategy that is coming up is thinking about the different sources of funding that are out there, and how do we make more with less? We know government life is full of choices here, and we just have to be smart about how we pool them and not being siloed in each of our own departments, and bringing the resources, water, public property, parks and rec, streets, the whole group. And then, of course, the Energy Authority and how they support us in all of our work. So, there is going to be some strategy building. I think grant administration is regardless of the department, but certainly ours is going to be a challenge because a lot of these federal programs have a lot of paperwork up front. They have a lot of paperwork to close out. The interim reporting, I feel like, is something that people doing the work really need to do. But grant work is specialized work. So, I think we have to give some thought about the strategy about how we manage.
And I think this maybe highlights kind of the exact value of having an authority in addition to having an internal department in the city. With IRA, there are 4 different kinds of funding. Some is formula funding that'll come straight into the city through most likely the Office of Sustainability. So they'll be able to sort of drive that type of funding. Some of it is competitive grants, as Liz mentioned, which is going to require a lot of support to different departments, but also to the school district, which we're working on providing, also to other entities across the city. There's opportunities where only a nonprofit can apply. And so there's a lot of coordination externally that has to happen. You have a question?
So do you all have like a grant administrator?
No, we're hoping to get that in this budget.
Okay, so you don't have anyone that sort of oversees and just is responsible for that work?
No, at PEA, we've all become grant writers and grant administrators over the last year and a half. And so our senior operations manager, Maxine Dixon, and our director of development, Shanique Banks, and myself and Katie and every other staff person at PEA really has contributed to managing that. And we have a number of federal grants now that we've been managing already. So it's a lot of work. And I think we've really operated on a shoestring, to really try to make every dollar that the city's given us count and, go towards the most impact. And so now I think we've really reached that inflection point where we need to create the support staff to actually get it done. So I think that's a big thing with IRA, right? I mean, as Liz said, it takes a whole lot of work to just apply for the grants, much less to administer them and report in on them. And the grants are only, a third of the money that's available, less than a third of the money that's available through the IRA. The other components are rebates and tax credits. And for the very first time, now cities and school districts and nonprofits will be able to get direct pay of tax credits so they can take advantage of these incentives as well as private sector folks. So that creates a whole new set of things that people need to learn about and know how to incorporate into projects. And so that's something we'll be able to facilitate for the city and the school district. And then with rebates, the states each administer those rebates in different ways. And so we're working closely with the State Department of Environmental Protection and other folks at the governor's office to make sure that Philly is able to get, a good share of those rebates and that they're administered in a way that will be accessible for not just higher income folks, but also low income folks who want to be able to put things like heat pumps in their homes.
Sure. I heard the bell, and I will be respectful of the clock, but I don't want to belabor and come back for a third round, but I just want to put these couple of things on the record, if I may. The first is around, one, thank you for that work and for all of you becoming grant experts. But I do think it's important for for someone to be centrally poised to deal with and handle all that we know is coming down the pipeline. So I just wanted to say that. But in addition to that, I have to give you kudos not only for Built to Last, for Solar CTE, and really around creating that. And I talked about this at the beginning, the local clean energy workforce that's really reflective of the city of Philadelphia. And I wish we had just, a little bit more to sort of parse that out. But you all have just done a stellar job around workforce and making sure it looks like our city. I just wanted to leave this, and if you could just answer this. For Built to Last, I think you talked about restoring 50 homes thus far. What lessons have you all learned during that time? And how are you all working to try to get us back to the 200 homes by FY2024? And if you think there's any other opportunities that may exist for support for that program. And that'll be my last question. I'll submit the rest for the record. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, Built to Last has taught us so many things. The model is that we provide almost an administrative backbone to coordinate across now 7 different home repair programs. Some are city, some are nonprofit, some are utility-based programs. And so putting all of those together to try to work in the right order and solve each other's problems before they get to the next program so that there are no deferrals or denials. Making sure everybody has case management so it's not confusing for the homeowners of who's coming when for what, moving it along quickly. So, typically it takes years, if ever, for folks to get this combo of services. We've been in the first round, we were able to get construction finished in about 20 weeks per home, which sounds like a lot, but I think feels fast to most of our homeowners. That's the feedback we've gotten. And I think overall, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive from every single homeowner. They were incredibly excited about the work we were able to do. Everything from, repairing draftiness in homes, which really, we don't realize how much that impacts people's quality of life, but it was such a big deal for folks. Yeah.
Right. It helps, particularly in these old homes. And my house is 2 years from 100 years old. I get it. It certainly does help. And I remember meeting that gentleman in the 7th Council District, just so excited about the work that you all were able to do. So apologies for cutting you off, but you are correct. Every little bit helps.
Thank you. Yeah. And, I'll give one other example. One of our homeowners, Nancy Carrasquillo in Kensington, said she was having health issues because her chimney had collapsed. She didn't have proper ventilation in the home. And there was, all sorts of issues from years of roof leaks and all sorts of other things. And she was lucky to get Basic Systems Repair to come in and do her roof, which was incredibly helpful. But of course, there's still other health problems in the home. And so Built to Last was able to follow on to that and come in and complete the rest of the work that needed to be done there. And not only is she healthy now and not having those problems anymore, but she has heating and cooling, as she likes to say, and solar to pay for that. So she's really excited. I think that's been the experience. We're on track to get to the 400 homes. That is our target for the next couple of years. We have, I think, most of the funding that we need. We're still waiting on a little bit of foundation support that I think we hope to get. And, we'll just keep fundraising. I think that's the only thing that we can do. Any advocacy for the state whole home repair program is greatly appreciated. Any other resources that can be identified. We're meeting with folks from both of our senators' offices to talk about a federal whole home repair program so that we can funnel even more money. Any changes to how the weatherization program can be implemented in Pennsylvania to make it more expansive with higher income guidelines, with more budget per home. All of that's really helpful. So, it's a little bit in the details and in the weeds there, but I think that's how these things go.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I will submit the remainder of my questions for the record. And just one last quick, Liz, do you all have a grants administrator? Is it that you all have it and they don't?
We do not, correct.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
All right.
Any other questions for these witnesses? There being none, thank you all for your testimony. As always, please be prepared for callbacks. Thank you for your work. We look forward to continuing the awesome opportunities that are presented out there.
Council President, you're on mute.
See, I'm on mute. Yeah, thank you. That concludes our testimony for PEA and Office of Sustainability. Next up is the Free Library of Philadelphia. Mr. McDermott, our witness to testify is?
Our next witness is Kelly Richards, President and Director of the Free Library.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Doing great. Good afternoon, President Clark and members of City Council.
All right.
I'm Kelly Richards, President and Director of the Free Library. And joining me today is Sade Olani Pekun. She's the Chair of the Board of Trustees. Priscilla Suero our first deputy, Darren Contman, our chief operating officer, and Danielle Henderson, our HR manager 3. Pleased to provide a testimony on the Free Library's fiscal year 2024 operating budget. I'll be brief. Our department
Mr.
and
Kelly.
yes, sir.
Hold on 1 second. Now, I know the screen is small. I'm sorry, I want to divert for a second. I looks like I see a Dallas Cowboy in the background. I mean, oh, okay, all right.
We've been working on him.
Wait.
That was bull asking and coming and asking for support.
I was looking back
I've been
there
working
too,
on
CP. I was actually looking at the paddle to the left. And then I saw that. Give him a pass.
For the record, Council Press, we're all Eagles fans over here. Straight Eagles. Look at our boy.
We've been working on him. We have.
That's right.
Clark, we've been working on
He
him.
made a mistake. It's all right. He's going to be all right.
That's
I'm
not
just
even
saying.
his.
We're a welcoming, diverse, and including organization.
All right. Okay, I just sometimes my eyes fail me, but all right, I'm sorry.
I've been a blur in my screen. It was a background that was a mishap.
All right. I'm sorry, Mr. Richards.
No.
It just threw me
it's
for a
okay.
little loop there. I'm sorry.
No, it's
Please proceed, sir.
he's got the wrong background. That's digital. It's the wrong background. All right. The mission of the Free Library of Philadelphia is to advance literacy, guide learning, and inspire curiosity. Our plan for the fiscal year 2024 is the Free Library. One is we're very thankful for the support that we received from council and the mayor in our 23 budget. It has allowed us to begin restoring staffing levels, which has greatly improved our morale. So we are fully equipped to provide resources and programs and services for our communities. The proposed increase of $9 million for fiscal year 24 will allow the Free Library to reach a level of stability not seen in decades. Our fiscal year 24 budget includes $2.8 million to provide the remaining 25% of fiscal year 23 full-time staff salaries for recently hired employees brought in to fulfill the goal of stable 5-day service. $3.8 million to support staffing needs at neighborhood libraries and Parkway Central to allow us to serve all patrons, including youth and vulnerable populations, 6 days per week. This level of staffing allows the Free Library to expand programming and services to support literacy, learning. We will also meet the social and emotional needs of the communities we serve with the hiring of a small team of full-time permanent social workers. $3.8 million to fill the gap in our materials budget to align with the state required materials funding for a library system our size. With these funds, we will expand our print and digital offerings, further connecting Philadelphians to the world through their library card. $250,000 for the planning and implementation of a strategic plan. This process, which will include a robust staff and community input, will inform the Free Library's vision with a renewed focus on accommodating the wants and needs of our communities. Diversity, equity, inclusion, I think we just showed that, and belonging will continue to be strengthened and integrated into library operations and services by instilling diverse and inclusive practices. Our ability to open consistently is critical to supporting and meeting the needs of our communities, as well as participating in citywide initiatives to provide safe spaces for our teens and young people. Our staff are dedicated and committed to ensuring this goal for the fiscal year 24. Thank you. any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Richard. I appreciate it. Appreciate
Sure.
your work and your quick response to every call that we make from our offices as it relates to constituent issues. Actually, I saw some folks over the weekend who were asking me about lady from the Freedom Riders over in Cecil B. Moore Rec Center, and she wanted to know when we were going to come over and the need to have some additional capital improvements. Unlike a lot of people, they don't quite understand when we put capital dollars in a facility. A lot of that money is utilized on systems, HVAC, all the other costly opportunities in the facility, but you have to have the heat, you have to have air conditioning wherever possible, you have to have utilities. But obviously there are additional things that are going to be needed. So we would like to have a conversation about some of those. I'm actually going to be taking a tour over there, as I promised the lady I would. But let me ask you this question, something that we've talked about. I know you talked to a number of members about the challenges associated with staffing, something that all of us have a challenge with, myself and all my colleagues, trying to find people, particularly people that are going to be reliable, people that are willing to work hard. I know as a result of the specialized type of employee that you sometimes require, you have had some challenges. Can you tell us what progress you've made on that? And
Sure. Be happy to provide some information on that. First, I'll say we really appreciate how working with the Department of Human Resources and the city and changing the requirements on our library assistant, our entry-level library assistant position. It took 3 years working part-time in order to get the experience, in order to get a full-time job. But working with the city, we were able to remove that requirement because some people want to work part-time and some people want to work full-time. So we were able to remove that requirement. So with the GED, you can get a full-time job or high school degree, get a full-time job with benefits in the city, working for the library, which is an awesome start to someone's career to have that entry-level position. So, and I will say this, because of that, we've been able to, we had some initial difficulty because we were so short-staffed initially in starting up that hiring process. But as of January, we've been averaging about 28 hires a month. We started out in January with like 44. And I believe in this April, we're going to be bringing on 28 new employees. But, there's some difficulty in getting librarians, but we have been going to different workshops and conferences around the country. We went to a joint conference of librarians of color that was attended by various demographic groups of library organizations, from the Black Caucus to the Asian and Hispanic organizations. And we went there. We had a team from HR Go to do some recruiting, and we had several people apply through that process. So we've been working very hard and building up our HR department to meet the needs of hiring those staff that we need in order to open up our branches 5-day stable, and then to move into 6-day is the reason why we're here today. Part of the reason.
All right.
So we've been working hard.
Your 6-day initiative, we'd be starting soon?
Well, we've got 10 libraries open now on Saturdays. This is just, this will give us an opportunity to evaluate and see how this will work. We haven't done this in a while in our communities because of COVID and even prior to that. But we're looking at, after this budget process, we believe we will be able to start Saturdays this fall at our neighborhood branches.
At all of them?
That's our goal at some point this fall. It'll be staggered. I don't think we've ever, when we've gone to Saturdays, I believe, ever opened them all at once, but we'll be staggering them in as we hire people.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you something a little bit off the grid.
Sure.
So we have a lot of community organizations operating on somewhat of a shoestring budget, but they try to do, the best they can with what they have. And I've actually gone by a couple of them, and they had these little small in the corner, these little bookshelves, and they've had like did a little version of a library. The best they can do. Do we actually, or have you ever given any thought to assisting some in, maybe not necessarily recycled books, but to be able to, if there's any excess books that we can have for organizations, even as an example, religious facilities, right? May want to, have, some sort of educational opportunities. So we got to do, clearly got to do things a little different. And I know we want to encourage everybody to go to the library, but if we can get a child to go to the Colorado Community Center, the shoot pool or whatever, but while they're there, they go pick up a book, something that's interesting, that they read it, then that's still, at the end of the day, that's our objective, to get people to read more and be more knowledgeable about all kinds of different things. Is there any relationship to the non-traditional type of relationship that libraries have?
What you're asking is not something that's unusual that libraries don't do. I have not investigated that here, but let me get back to you because I've got some very creative staff and I'm quite sure some of them are doing something. So I'll get back to you and see if that's not something we're already doing.
Are you familiar with something like that being done somewhere
Oh,
else?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I'm very familiar with that. Our Read by Fourth program that we are a lead partner to, they have book nooks out in the community, like at daycare centers and different places where people go. I believe even in some laundromats. So that is something that we participate in and are part of. Maybe that answers your question, but what I can do is get back to you and see if we're doing more like that.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. Well, I'm saying not necessarily what's going on here. I mean, I know you're in other places. I mean, based on what you said initially, it sounded like you were familiar with.
Yes, I am very familiar.
Other systems doing it.
Yes.
If you can just give us an example of other systems. I mean, I understand you don't want to throw your people under the bus if they're not doing it, but we're here to help. Right?
Yeah. It does take place. It does happen in other library systems across the country where they partner with barbershops, partner with, daycare centers, partner with, doctor's offices, places where people congregate and go and have to sit for a while and they're with their kids or either seniors. It does happen frequently.
All right. Yeah, I mean, we're here to help. I mean, if we're going to put additional resources in the system, we'd like to see an expansion of the participation rates. And if it calls for us, giving you more resources to get people to read somewhere else other than the library, I don't think that anything's wrong with that. As long as they're working within the format of, the general library, we want to have some accountability. But, last time I checked, people don't steal books or anything because they don't want to read them. They take them because they want to read them, right? So you don't have to worry about the accountability issue. So give us some thought, please, and
sure,
before we conclude our budget, and it's okay if you can give us some examples because we got to do things differently. This challenge out here is just so tremendous. All right, well, thank you. I'll peel back, and again, I'll be reaching out to you for the follow up on the Cecil B. Moore branch because I've got to do this walkthrough, and I know the wish list on the capital side is going to be quite extensive. And if we can do anything with that facade, I know there's a couple of comments. I'll talk to you offline about them. Yeah.
Okay.
I know you had made a commitment to do some things.
Yes, there's some things going to happen.
Every time I go out there, they do what they're supposed to do. They grab the council person and say, "When are you going to get this done?" And it's part of the deal. I love it. All right, thank you. I believe Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is first up.
Yes, thank you, Council President. And thank you, President and Director Richards, and to your team, including Priscilla and, of course, Sade, our always council member, family member. We appreciate the work of the library. And you know, I don't have to repeat this, that I completely believe in the Free Library of Philadelphia. And we visit a ton of the branches very often, but particularly the Winfield branch in the 4th Council District. We love the Winfield Library. So I wanted to start where CP left off relative to capital funding. Could you detail how much in capital funding you all are allocated to receive this year, and sort of what will that cover based on what you intend to receive or what you believe you'll receive? And then you also mentioned in your testimony that some of the capital projects, there's a goal of 10 to 15 major capital projects for FY24. Could you just provide a list of those projects, like what the major projects will be for the next fiscal year? And then after you talk about that, can you just talk about what the overall capital need is for the library?
Sure, would be happy to talk about that. I've got with me today Jim Pecora, our property management director, and he is intimately attached to this. I can speak some on it, but to answer your questions fully now, Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You hear the council member's question?
Yes, I did.
Can you answer that for me, please?
Of course. So I think I will try to answer these in the order you asked. Right now, in the fiscal 24 budget, there's approximately 19.5, and that breaks down into just a few categories. There's 4.6 of that is rebuild. There's 3.9 that's carryover, and I'm actively doing projects with that. The 10 million that we received is another piece of that. And with that, I'll answer your next question about what we have planned next year. And actually, I'm already into it. But and then there's the allocation for fiscal 24 is 1.5. There's also a small PICA amount in there, and that makes up that what you see in the budget document. As far as the I have, I'd be very I won't go into like all the weeds, but be very happy to give you my list afterwards. I'm going to answer your question now, but I have like complete projects in progress, on deck now, on deck in 24. Where I'm going right now is I've got about six roof jobs, 7 actually, in just queuing them up right now, partially with some of the carryover, but I'm getting into the 10 million. So I'm working with public property on getting them started. I already got one going at Walnut, but then there's D. Rodriguez and Bushrod. They're all over. So we got 6 roof jobs going. I've got a significant design project going for redesigning rare book system at Central. Those things are in progress. As far as what I got queued up for next year, which really is going to start very, very soon. The $10 million is made up of at least right now about 33 different projects. And
is that 30? I apologize. Is
no
that
problem.
33 different projects across 33 different locations, or multiple projects at certain locations? I guess if we could just get a list. And the reason why I'm asking for this is because in our appropriations committee hearing, we have received information. I have followed up with finance about this, and they have provided a response. But we received information about capital funding that should have been or will be split between PPR and the Free Library of Philadelphia. So I am trying to understand what the allocation from that $40 million pot of money is, how much is going to the library, and if it impacts any of this work. Or is that primarily going to PPR? And I don't know if anybody from finance is on the call that could really walk me through that or really address that question, because I'm seeking clarity to really understand, and I'm trying to pull up the email now, trying to understand how much of that is impacting the work that you're speaking about.
Okay, I can answer, I can give you the detail on the 10 million. I can't answer the question about the split. So that would have to be, I'd have to have finance help with that. But on the split, on the 10 million, approximately 89% of that is going to, as Council President mentioned earlier, a lot of the more expensive elements of construction, HVAC and roof, 89% of that will go there. And when you start looking at how many neighborhood libraries that would cover, it's approximately 18 of them. So it doesn't, that 10 million and all that, that HVAC and roof money is not going to cut, rebuild will cover, they're doing 4 major renovations and several smaller ones. I'd say that's about another 8. So with all that money, 18 plus 8, 26 libraries, it's about half of the libraries that we're really investing in more heavily. So that's all I could speak to in terms of next year, the 10 million. Sorry, I can't answer that other part.
Sure. Is there anyone here from finance? Because I really apologize for doing this on this hearing, because I did ask for this information and you all have responded. And Rob has been stellar with following up. But I'm seeking clarity that in the documents that we received, it was 40 million and it was split between PPR and the free library. And it says approximately 20 million will be used for improvements to the Carousel House. The remaining 20 million is planned to address budget gaps for the projects going to construction in the remainder of this fiscal year. Those include approximately 14 parks, playground or recreation centers, and 5 libraries. That's the response from the budget office. So I'm looking at a document here in response to an inquiry from the Appropriations Committee stating that $40 million of this $40 million, it will include funding for 5 libraries. So I'm trying to understand the 5 libraries, which locations or which projects for the 5 libraries, and then how does that impact the allocation that you all have for the current fiscal year, and then what you have planned for FY24. I don't want to get this mixed up. And I'm telling you that as someone who's been around, I'm mixed up on this, okay? I need to know how much of the 40 million is going to the free library for capital. Because initially when we received the responses from budget, and I get it, folks are rushing, it said rebuild versus PPR. It wasn't rebuild versus PPR. It was rebuild in PPR and the free library. Okay, and so the question has been answered, but it's no clarity on how much, because now I can't adequately ascertain what's coming from the spring appropriations transfer ordinance, what's already been in there for FY23 that's being spent down before the end of the fiscal year, and then if there's anything additional coming in from this rebuild piece. I need some clarity on this.
Good afternoon, Council Member. I'm Sabrina Maynard. I am the new Budget Director as of this week, and so I do not have an answer for you. Thank you. This is my first time doing this. So I want to make sure we get you accurate information, so we'll follow up separately after the hearing, but I want to acknowledge your question and acknowledge that we'll sort it out and we'll get you the information you're requesting.
Sure. Well, congratulations and welcome, but this has been ongoing prior to you assuming this position, and it is very important that during this hearing we receive clarity on this, because if I don't get clarity on this, I cannot move forward in making an intelligent decision. This all is not making sense to me now, and so I'm just, for the record, I want to be clear. I need to know how much on capital that was mentioned for the spring FY23 mid-year transfer ordinance, how much did the Free Library have to spend on capital already for FY23? And then how much is being proposed for FY24? And which projects for which pot of money? Because it's not fair to the library folks, because they can't answer these questions, because this is a budget office issue. And I don't want library director, President Richards or Mr. Pecora to think that this is any slight to you, because you have to get your direction from the budget office, which is what I'm seeking to do. And so I need a breakdown of each one of those pots of money, all three, and which projects for which pots. So I can add it all up and say how much it is total. Because even Council President had a question on capital and about a project for Cecil B. So we just need to know, okay?
Understood. Thank you, Council Member. We will get back to you.
Thank you, Council President. I'll circle back on the second round.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Mr. President,
Yes,
the
sir.
best appointment you made to appropriations was Catherine Gilmore Richardson. She is forensic with her analysis. I'm telling you, I said this to her last Thursday, and I'm saying it on the record now. It's amazing, her attention to detail, and you should answer her questions, because she will not forget them. President Richards, are you still there?
Yes, I am. I'm still here.
Oh, okay. First of all, let me thank you. The first time we met was at Scombati's book fair, and we were signing and giving out books to people. So that was a good indication of the type of leader you would be. So that's number one. Number two, share with us your vision on how we move from hardback books and still maintaining them to a online streaming availability for people, young people in particular, who don't get their information from hardback books. Schools are moving away from hardback books. How are we evolving as a library system, both in film and in books online, to meet that new frontier?
Oh, good. Very good question, Council Member. There was a period when digital books and resources, came on the market. People got excited, started getting Kindles and everything for Christmas. Grandparents, mom and pop, and during that particular time, those resources, as far as being sold and for the general public, were outpacing the selling of books. But over the years, and this is pre-COVID, over the years, it sort of balanced out. People who wanted digital books and materials got those, and people who wanted hardcover books and materials got those. Now, that's just from the marketing aspect of it and the selling aspect of it. But what libraries have found out is that people still want to come in and check out books and materials. They still want the physical copy. They still want the hard copy. There's nothing electronic that beats holding a book in your hand and flipping through it. Nothing beats that. And we don't think that's going to ever happen anytime soon. But I will tell you that, youth and there's certain adults, they love those digital books and digital materials. So libraries have evolved where we collect those or purchase those just like we buy the hardcover copies. We buy them as a shared resource so that people, our community, can access those the same way they access the physical copies. So we provide the digital resources and materials, books, recorded books where people can, you can drive and connect your phone to your car and listen to a book. You can look at a movie or some National Geographic special. All of those sort of digital resources that people are paying for, the library is the place where everyone can come in and have that shared resource with those same digital materials. So we have evolved just as, you know, society has evolved with information. So that's one thing about the library. We make it available to everyone, to the common person out there in the city of Philadelphia. So we evolved. Libraries were one of the first who had VHSs, you know, and betas and CDs and DVDs. So we evolve.
Doesn't know what a VHS machine is. She's Googling it now. But what I wanted to get to was I'm hoping there is a plan to modernize the technology and the streaming, but also teleconferencing, so that what we experienced in the pandemic, that libraries continued to be safe places where parents felt comfortable leaving their kids to study. But I think if we add that teleconferencing aspect, that a lecture done in Germantown can be received at the Winfield Library, can be received at the Point Breeze area. So to be able to wire and provide hotspots for our young people to access the internet, for our young people to go on and, let's say, the folk from the Environmental Sustainability Office talked about how you can get involved in learning how to make solar panels, so that they can then plug into that lecture. And we can work a partnership with a community college or other colleges to be able to allow some of our high schoolers to be able to benefit from that knowledge. YouTube, say what you want about it. If you want to learn how to do something, good or bad, you can go on YouTube and learn how to do it. And I would just hope holistically and wholesomely that libraries can fill that void for young people and provide the guardrails and guidelines through technology to get good books online and good access to information online.
Well, Councilmember, what I will tell you is that the Free Library has the largest footprint for public computer use in the city of Philadelphia. And because of the generosity of the council and the mayor to give the Free Library $3.4 million to upgrade all of our computers, all of our software, puts us in a position to next fiscal year, when we roll this out, puts us in a position to where we can do just that. Because in order to run what you're saying, you need software, you need the back end in order to be able to handle and control that. So that gives us the ability to have that dream of yours become a reality.
Finally, and I'm going to say this in turn, I heard the bell, your staff, the librarians and other staff, are not your prototypical government employee. They love the library. They love the patrons of the library, and are the most zealot defenders of the library system that I've ever had opportunity to work with. So whether you're talking about the 52nd Street Library, the Overbrook Library, the Winfield Library, throughout my district, East Falls and others, they really, I remember when former Mayor Nutter wanted to cut library. And he ran into a hornet's nest and buzzsaw of people who defend your system. So keep on providing the kind of services that people want to fight for. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. It's their life. It's a calling to them. They give their life to it.
Prez?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Any additional questions?
Yes.
On Council
Chair
President.
recognized. I'm sorry, Elle. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Yes, and I'll just be real brief. It's in regards to, and you touched on it briefly earlier, but going to the 5 days a week, going to scale. I know you said post-pandemic, kind of taking our time to get all of our libraries open. I do recognize the ones that are opening 6 days a week now. None of them are in the second councilmatic district. I just wanted to get an idea as you move forward, what's going to be the process as you identify sites to be open 6 days a week, and then also what is the robust staffing plan? Because I remember in the past it's been conversation regarding the lack of staffing for our library system here in the city of Philadelphia. And so have we addressed that issue, and are we aggressively going about recruiting people to work in our libraries so we can have full staff? And I guess call sometime that the library at Queen Memorial may not be open the full time. It might be open half of the time, which I don't see how that happens, with all the resources we have in the city to keep our libraries open. But some person said, staffing is an issue. So can you give me an update, Mr. Richards?
Yes, council member. I can tell you that in I believe it was January 2022, we were open probably about 40% of the time on a regular basis, which was because of lack of staffing. We just didn't have the staffing that was necessary to provide the services that the community was expecting of us. And that had been taking place from about 2008. It's been going on. It's almost a generation or two. And but with these current resources that the council has given us, we will be able to get our staffing back up to, but it's taken some effort, because not only were we lack of staffing for the branches, but it was also an issue in every one of our departments where we had lack of staffing to really efficiently run the library system. But as a year after that, in January of this year, I think we're somewhere near 70% of opening. So as we continue to hire and bring more people on board, that percentage is only going to increase. And I'll tell you, some of the things we've been doing, I'm hearing from branches right now, people saying it's a joy to be in the library on Saturdays. And, we've got branches now, the 10 that are open, more coming soon. Students and job seekers are in the library because they couldn't get there through the weekday. And number of kids in some of our branches, our Kensington branches, we having pop-up story times because the kids are there, unlike before. But Eastwick is in your district, and that is one of the branches that's open on Saturday.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we made sure we had a branch open in every councilmatic district.
That's good. I'm probably Eastwick. I live in Point Breeze, so I'm probably focusing on
understand
Queen Memorial, but I support Eastwick as well because that's part of the whole district. And so, what is that staffing strategy plan? Like, what are we doing to aggressively recruit individuals, or are there any barriers or obstacles that have?
Well, the one barrier that you removed, that the city removed, and we got your support, council support to get this removed, was that barrier of getting our frontline staff, removing that barrier for requirement to have worked 3 years. Most people don't want to work 3 years part-time to get a full-time job. Now that significantly helped us with the staff we need to work in our buildings. Now, we have some challenges, and everybody do, with hiring librarians. But, our staff, we're working really hard, going to different librarian conferences around the country and recruiting them to come to work in Philadelphia. And we've had success. So it's coming, it's happening. It's just going to take some time. We just need time to make this thing happen.
I want to leave on this one recommendation, and I'm sure probably my colleague, Councilman Jones, agrees with this as well. as well as Catherine Gilmore Richardson. We do a lot of work around this issue regarding public safety and youth gun violence, right? I view our library system as part of the violence prevention strategy here in the city of Philadelphia. As a kid, I spent plenty of Saturdays in the library. It was a safe haven. It was a way for me to be involved in something positive as opposed to be me getting involved in things that are negative inside the neighborhood. But it also provides a safe haven for our young people to come and just learn, right? Also, I know our daycare and pre-K system, a lot of them utilize our library systems all across the city of Philadelphia. And that's the opportunity to invest in our young people on the front end, as opposed to have to address issues when they get older. And so obviously we set them on the path early on, it pays off down the line from an educational and perspective, and also them being productive members of society. And so just continue to keep up the good work in that aspect. Anyway, I could be supportive of you. Don't hesitate to let me know. There's obviously a job training, career, and employment component that our libraries play in terms of helping people look for jobs as well as careers. And I think that's another key component in terms of us stressing the issue of gun violence and also poverty. And so I look at them being bigger than just, hey, let me just go and read a few books. It's just the library, but the library is utilized for a variety of different ways in terms of moving our city of Philadelphia forward. So listen, you keep up the good work, and we'll be looking forward to continuously working with you. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Yes, thank you so much, Council President. I will end here just on a few questions. One, I just want to circle back to confirm if you could just state what you estimate the overall capital needs are for the library.
On it. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Councilmember, are you stating like annually, or are you stating just what?
I would say overall, moving forward, if you had a magic wand and were able to deal with every single capital project necessary to ensure that our library infrastructure was up to par, what would that number be?
All right, I'm gonna pull this magic wand out now. We believe that if we had minimally for stability $6 million a year, preference would be $12 million a year, and we'll be able to keep all of our branches open, the roofs fixed, because we're constantly going to have to circle around all of our branches to maintain our stability, to keep them open, replacing the roofs, carpeting, windows, all of the things that's necessary to make the continue to have our buildings safe, ADA capabilities throughout the years. That's what we would need. I think now we get about 1.5 million. So,
okay,
Jim, you want to add anything to that from the expert's point of view?
Well, we did a lot of homework on comparing. We've got 53 libraries. We've got 1 million square feet. 20 of them are Carnegie, so they're aging. There's a lot of extra effort that goes into that. But we compared ourselves to government buildings, school buildings, commercial buildings, and that's where we arrived at the optimum would be a minimum of $7 million a year, so that you could plan to replace roofs on the proper schedule, HVAC. Problem like right now, I'll give you an example, like Haddington and Wyoming, we knew we had a problem last summer. We ordered equipment in the fall. I will not get it until mid-July. I have to put in, and everything's, the lead times now are really challenging. So if you don't have that kind of funding, what we're doing is just waiting for the next fire, and then we'll try to put it out. With that $7 million minimum, we can go into a true capital improvements planning process. That's HVAC, roofs. I'm about 26 roofs into the 52 libraries. And 15 years, things aren't lasting 15 to 20 years these days. So with the 10 million and things that are coming up, I've got, a lot of roof jobs coming up. And, you're competing with the school district, very important improvements that need to be done there. And there's, only so many resources, but that would be the number.
Okay. And then finally, I have to mention this because you talked about workforce a bit, but I do need to mention the LEAP program. You all know I started as a teenager in the Free Library of Philadelphia, serving as a teen leadership assistant at the Winfield branch. And so I know LEAP continues to sort of move through different iterations, and particularly through the pandemic. And I had an opportunity to meet with the young folks via computer during the pandemic. But will the LEAP program be fully operational this year? Are you all hiring TLAs? And I have to say thank you for the TLA hire program and just the overall team programs we've done with the library, and particularly in response to Act 158, where we've taken these programs to Winfield Library. We did a program at Overbrook High School. And so really thankful for that and connecting young people to those opportunities to really get them started on a pathway to service in library science. But what will TLA look like this year? And how many young people do you anticipate will be hiring for TLA?
I can't give you that number right now, but I will get back to you on that. But I will tell you, 2 TLAs at each library and 1 ASL at each library. And, it's a great partnership that we have with DHS. We appreciate that. And it goes a long way to show how different departments can work together and build synergy and provide a great service for the city. So we recognize it's an awesome program and that you went through it and look at where you are today. So it's a great it's a great thing. But yeah, 2 TLAs at each library and 1 ASL at each library. We just had some difficulty going through COVID and the branches closing and the kids, showing up, and we're getting better and we're working through that. We're getting people hired and we're getting these branches open, so we can have more people coming through that with an experience to be just as successful as you.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And I always pay special close attention to the LEAP line item in the budget. So that's why I always ask to make sure that they are budgeted and that we'll be able to have TLAs in every library, because that's an important opportunity for young people. It's not through like a Work Ready or through any of the other summer programming that the city offers holistically. And then finally, I'll end on a note of thanks, just to appreciate you and the library team for the wonderful program we all put together last summer with the grandmother of Juneteenth, my soror Opal Lee, who was able to read children's books to children at the Free Library of Philadelphia main branch. That was just a fantastic program and opportunity to highlight a historical figure who has just been honored by the White House, who is still living. She's almost 97 years old and still doing great work. So I just want to appreciate you and the team of the Free Library. And just again, before I conclude, Council President, put on the record that I will anticipate additional information from the Budget Office regarding my very specific request around the capital funding for the Free Library and the differentiation of the different pots of money. That will be very important to our ability to move forward, because I'm now not understanding what was sent back to me. So thank you very, very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
The Council President had to step away for a minute. Is Councilman Jones present? Well, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, we are currently waiting on the chair if you'd like to ask any additional questions. Okay, I will see if...
Thank you.
Okay. Just a moment while I wait for the chair to join. Just a second. Hi, Councilwoman. I do see your request in the chat. And for the record, it states if we need a recess till the next day of hearings. We do need a council member to recess till the next day of hearings, which is Tuesday, April 25th at 10 a.m. on Teams. If you could recess to that.
Sure, it'll be my pleasure. For the record, seeing if there are any council members or any other witnesses with questions for these witnesses from this committee. Okay, there being none, this committee will stand in recess until Tuesday, April 25th at 10 a.m., at which time we will reconvene in a remote manner using Microsoft Teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you.